Hello there everyone. We are going to be doing for our article of the week, social media's impact on student health comes into focus. This is from NEA Today, which is an educational publication. It's published just a few days ago, the end of September. And what I'm going to ask you to do is to write a short summary of the article and just a reflection on one part of the article. But more importantly, I'd like you to do a visual notes summary of the article too. So as you read this, think about images, think about things that you could include. Okay, so according to a recent report from the Pew Research Center, 95% of teens use a smartphone and 45% that they are online almost constantly. About 70% of teens are on Snapchat and Instagram, while 85% are on YouTube. One would think all this near constant socializing would make teens feel more connected than ever before. In her classroom, says teacher Corey McCabe, the opposite is true. Social media has crippled my students when it comes to interacting with one another in person. Their very ability to communicate is deteriorating, says McCabe, who teaches 11th grade English in Rutherford County, North Carolina. The very definition of social media may be misleading, according to experts who are finding that more time teens spend on social media, the lonelier and more anxious they are. There's a correlation between smartphone usage and lower satisfaction with life, according to Jacob Barkley, professor of health sciences at Kent State University. Interaction on social media is not beneficial. It's electronic, explains Barkley, who has been studying smartphone use and students since 2013. The higher the cell phone use, the more time spent on social media and the higher the anxiety. Peer relationships actually get worse the more you use your phone. Jean Twenge, a psychology professor at San Diego State University, reached similar conclusions in 2017. In her study, Twenge discovered that students who spent more time using smartphones and other electronic devices are less satisfied with their lives than students who frequently engage in face-to-face interaction. We found that teens who spent 5 or more hours a day online were 71% more likely than those who spent less than 1 hour a day to have at least one suicide risk factor, such as depression, thinking about suicide, making a suicide plan, or attempting suicide. Overall, suicide risk factors rose significantly after 2 or more hours a day of time online, Twenge wrote in 2017. If teens were to follow up high social media usage with lots of time spent socializing in person, the effects perhaps wouldn't be so adverse. But in most cases they aren't. It turns out liking a post, commenting cute, or keeping up with a Snapchat streak isn't the same thing as catching up. It's not even close. Yet too many teens, according to experts, are substituting real-life interactions for Instagram posts and paying the price. Because research into social media and education is still generally in its infancy, many educators are still trying to fully understand the effects of these technologies. Social media can be an effective teaching tool, but many educators are alarmed at the role it plays in heightening student anxiety and stress. Social media and anxiety. In 2018, the Centers for Disease Control issued some sobering statistics about student anxiety and depression. Teens are more lonely, anxious, and depressed than ever before. About a third of teens surveyed by the CDC said they'd felt persistent sadness or hopelessness. Social media, says John Richter, Director of Public Policy at the Mental Health Association, believes social media is exacerbating this trend. Researchers are finding that when someone develops depression and withdraws from peers, they see other people on social media smiling and at parties with friends. It magnifies their sense of isolation, says Richter. The Child Mind Institute's 2018 Children's Mental Health Report focuses on anxiety in teenagers, spotlighting the prevalent role of social media in their lives. The report points out that existing research does conclude that social media can be constructive. Youth with a stronger emotional investment in social media are likely to have higher levels of anxiety. And yet, students have trouble putting their phone down for too long, says Crystal Hussett, counselor at Pardeeville High School in Wisconsin. It seems like many students struggle to detach from their electronic devices, says Hussett. Many students do see social media as an issue, but it is also the only thing that they know. Anne Braun, 6th grade teacher at Woodland Elementary in Kansas, noticed an increase of mental health issues in her students. I never had kids diagnosed with anxiety and depression 10 years ago, said Braun. They compare themselves and it brings on bad feelings. Katrina Smith, 5th grade teacher in North Carolina, agrees. They base their love of themselves on how people respond to their pictures, says Smith. The lack of real-life communication, the comparison and the bullying are too much for some students to bear, Smith adds. Recently, she noticed a student acting out in her classroom. She was especially agitated and disrupted the class. After working with her, I found that she had a lot going on, and it had to do with Instagram. Her so-called friends had called her names the evening before. Anne Braun says students will talk about feeling left out when they see their friends communicating on social media. They have FOMO, fear of missing out. They don't have the tools to deal with these negative emotions. Discussing social media in the classroom. Ideally, every school district in the nation would be equipped with a comprehensive, systematic program to address students' mental health challenges. Despite renewed attention to the problem in recent years, the schools have a long way to go. In 2018, New York and Virginia became the first states to require mental health education as part of public school curriculum. It's a start, says John Richter, because the curriculum will help teach kids how to deal with some of the pressures of their lives. How do we help kids who experience anxiety because of social media? The first step is teaching kids to recognize what anxiety actually is and feels like, and how to seek help, Richter said. While many districts are taking significant steps in designing new evidence-based programs, helping students navigate social media is a challenge that many educators are taking on in the classroom level. Larissa May, CEO of Half the Story, a company dedicated to healthy social media use, believes that educators first and foremost should simply be aware of their students' experiences on social media. Every adult has experienced scrolling through Facebook for too long and comparing themselves on social media. Let your students know you understand these issues, she says. Showing students other ways to use social media in the classroom can also help prepare them for healthy use in adult life, says teacher Anne Braun. I had a student create a website for her friend after her friend got diagnosed with cancer, and the website allowed visitors to donate to the American Cancer Foundation, Braun recalls. Her students also respond favourably to positive feedback online via Classroom Twitter account. They get comments from the online community as well as parents and grandparents. Last suggests integrating a social media component to every project. Social media is an extremely useful and powerful tool, and we can't run away from that, she says. Awareness of the issue is the first step for educators, parents and students alike, says Jacob Barkley of Kent State. Encourage students to step back and examine their use more critically, he advises. Smartphones weren't a thing. Now we're using them a lot. How is that affecting our lives? It's not about educators controlling their students' social media usage, adds Lartz. It's about holding a conversation that many students want to have. It's important to present the impact of social media talk as facts. There is research showing the effect on our mental health, and it's something to be discussed in the classroom. So, again, what we're going to do is respond to these questions. What are your thoughts about the effects of social media on mental health? And then pick one passage from the article. That might be a couple of paragraphs, 3 paragraphs, one of the sections, and then respond to it. Give us your opinion. Try and back that up with some evidence and some reasons. And then finally, I'm not going to ask you to discuss the move here. What I'm going to ask you to do is to do a visual note summary of the article we've just read. So remember, visual notes are the main ideas, facts, data, images that are engaging and interesting, that respond to the article that we've just read.